Well, 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 look what we have here. The deadliest siege warship in the galaxy, the Mandator-IV class siege Dreadnought. The First Order's answer to planetary shields, designed to wipe out entire bases and entire capital ships. So let us dive into this vessel like a magnetic bomb and try to ignore the plot armor that saw it blow up. Yeah, I have made it clear, or so I hope, on my feelings when it comes to the sequel trilogy. They aren't my favorite, but I am a sucker for cool looking warships and starfighters, of which the sequels have plenty, even if they are absurd and put to poor use. I've discussed the Resurgent class Star Destroyer before, but this siege dreadnought we're about to break down blows that thing out of the water. The Mandator-IV class siege dreadnought, also referred to as the Mandator-IV class warship, and First Order dreadnought, was a model of the Mandator class. The original Mandator class Star Dreadnought was a warship developed by Kuat Drive Yards a whole 2 decades before the Clone Wars. It was made to be the centerpiece of the Kuat Sector Defense Fleet and was the first starship to receive the designation of Dreadnought by the Anaxis War Collage. Although it was limited in its speed and weaponry due to the Ruusan Reformation, which was enacted at the start of the Golden Age of the Old Republic following the events of the New Sith Wars, this reform also went into effect around the time Darth Bane established the Rule of Two. Many years later, Kuat and Trala Engineering would work on constructing the Mandator-IV class siege dreadnought, a massive warship capable of breaking planetary defenses and crippling entire fleets. The Mandator-IV had a length of 7,669.7 meters, a width of 4,121 meters, and a height of 770 meters. For comparison, the First Order's premier warship, the Resurgent Star Destroyer, had a length of 2,915.8 meters, and the ISD boasted a length of 1,600.5 meters. So yeah, it's huge. The Mandator was so large it needed a crew of 53,000 officers, 140,000 enlisted, and 22,000 stormtroopers. Truthfully, that's kinda insane and it makes for a horrible loss if you lose one of these dreadnoughts, but that won't happen, right? Now, the imposing size of the Mandator-IV is one thing, its firepower is even more impressive, being greater than a dozen Star Destroyers. I know that's kind of a wild statement, but let's talk about why, because it isn't quantity of turbolasers, it's the 2 orbital autocannons. The Mandator-IV puts the siege in siege warships. Yeah, we've talked about the Onager class before, but these weapons are different. Maybe worse, but that's for discussion later. These autocannons were designed for one purpose and one purpose only: annihilation of the enemy. Mounted beneath the dreadnought, these 2 autocannons could unleash a salvo of 2 massive bolts of plasma in quick succession. This would lead to a barrage of 4 high-powered blasts impacting the surface and obliterating anything that dared exist. These salvos could even break planetary shields, something that was inconceivable during the time of the Clone Wars and the Empire, unless you have a Death Star. Turning these weapons on a fleet would see the shields of an MC-85 and even larger star cruisers crumbling beneath its barrage, almost like they weren't even there. When they're called fleet killers, it's really no joke. But what could possibly be the downside of such a glorious and all-powerful weapon like the Mandator-IV class? Well, there's a number of issues, and it's not just plot armor, I hope. Having a massive vessel like this is intimidating, but it can also be a large target. As the Empire learned, and the surviving members of the Imperial Remnant turned First Order officers know, starfighters are a real issue for these large capital ships. So you'll defend it well, right? No? You only place 26-point defense dorsal cannons on the Mandator? Why? This is such a glaring issue. The orbital autocannon's sheer draw of power is immense, but you couldn't manage to throw some more defensive batteries on there? Maybe some ion cannons or proton torpedo launchers? Heck, even concussion missiles would have prevented that snail of a bomber from dropping its entire load on the single Mandator tasked with destroying the Resistance. But alas, this dreadnought was designed with only 26 dorsal point defense weapons. Maybe if Poe would have just gone down below the dreadnought and shot out the primary orbital cannons, he wouldn't have to sacrifice the crews of those death traps the Resistance calls bombers. Oh wait, the Mandator has 6 deflector shields, thank goodness. I hope these are capable of deflecting an outdated X-Wing's laser cannons. And yes, the T-70 is outdated by this point. What a surprise they're not. And a single X-Wing is too much for these weapon towers designed for destroying starfighters. Great, this doesn't seem like plot armor at all. Turn off your brain, okay? You just need to watch Poe do what no one else, including the Force-sensitive Luke and Anakin, could ever do. These defensive towers don't matter, and the squadrons of TIE fighters on board don't matter either. You wouldn't ever need to launch a screen of TIE fighters to protect your single siege Dreadnought. That's crazy talk. Speaking of being crazy, what are these 3 Star Destroyers doing? Why are they back here? Why are they not attacking the fleet? Why don't they prioritize the base, considering how small it is? You don't need to fire a barrage of lasers from a single Dreadnought. The base was like 4 bunkers. 3 Resurgent-class Star Destroyers could easily bombard a base that size and reduce it to nothing but slag. Then you have the Fleet Killer kill the fleet, which is a single MC-85 and 2 support frigates. Still have to deal with a few X-Wings and some bombers? Cool, it's not like you don't have multiple wings of TIE fighters at the ready, and a host of point defense towers and turbo lasers at hand. Not to mention those pesky ventral cannons, which look an awful lot like concussion missile turrets. What is the logic here? Do you believe that Star Destroyers stay stationary or something? Why, it's not like the first ever Star Wars movie showed us a Star Destroyer chasing down a blockade runner corvette. Wild. It's like the First Order jumps in, and nothing. Gotta wait for the Siege Dreadnought and Poe's attack. An attack that I support despite its impossibility, because if that Mandator was allowed to survive, then the First Order would simply track them through hyperspace and blow them apart, because those autocannons have crazy range. However, this brings me back to their lack of defense for such a valuable weapon. Why don't you protect it? Why aren't there autocannons on Supreme Leader Snoke's flagship? What is going on with this battle? At least with other space battles in Star Wars, it made sense. The Battle of Coruscant saw Venators and support ships in close engagement with CIS forces, throwing broadside attacks at one another. The Battle for Scarif showed us a ragtag fleet of rebels fighting 2 ISDs caught off guard. However, when a competent vessel like Darth Vader's Devastator showed up, the rebels were quickly dispatched because they stood no chance against an ISD, a single ISD, because large warships are a serious threat that made even the famed Rogue Squadron run for hyperspace. How could anyone think that the Battle of Dakar was anything but the result of a simple man not understanding the complexities of Star Wars warfare? It's not even that complex. Well, what happened? All I saw was red there. Are we good? We still recording? Where was I? The Mandator-IV class Siege Dreadnought was the most powerful weapon of war the First Order ever implemented. Shut up, Starkiller Base, no one likes you. Unfortunately, it was used in an illogical way, but still managed to look cool even if it was for such a short time. That's all I have to say on this warship. I think I need a drink, so let me know if I missed anything. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and blast the like button if you raged out with me. Have an amazing day wherever you are, and may the Force be with you, always.